Welcome, everybody. Be talking about some interesting stuff today. I'm going to jump right into it because this will be long. I was going to make a page. I might just use a blank black screen to give people a time to take a breath, because it's going to be probably two parts, might be 2 hours long. It's going to be long. It may be shorter. Depends how I can deliver it. And in order to do this, I need to give you some background so you understand some things, because a lot of people may know this stuff, some don't. So for the benefit of those who don't, I got to define terms. So with that, we're going to kind of just jump right into this puppy right now. And for the powers that be, this is all under the copyright disclaimer section 107 of 76 is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, education, and research. And I am doing this for commentary and research and education and educating people. So I'm going to be quoting something quite at length, but I'm not going to show it online. I'm just going to quote from it, and I'll show you why in a second. So with that, let's go ahead and get started. If you're joining in, you're just going to have to get started, and you'll catch on later, okay? Okay. Well, folks, I got to ask you a question. You watched the movie, haven't you? The movie The Wizard of Oz, but you don't know the real story. To ensure a win, you must play both sides, because that's what the movie is really about. That's the devil's game. The devil's game is actually written inside of the book by Mr. Frank Baum of The Wizard of Oz, as well as in the movie. So every day we see the devil play. We see him playing in this game in Minneapolis, the liberal labor parties in the EU and the UK, Democrats, leftists in the USA, fake news, narratives, and agendas all seeing. We're off to see the wonderful Wizard of Oz. What in the world am I talking about? Well, we're going to find out, folks. We're going to find out. Yep, whoops. I was just listening to make sure the music sounded okay. But anyway, we're going to get started here. Okay. So do you recall in the Wizard of Oz movie with Judy Garland singing Over the Rainbow and all the Munchkins singing, follow, follow, follow the yellow brick road, follow the yellow brick road, follow, follow, follow the yellow brick road. And they dance around in the movie and all that stuff. So the movie is an adaptation of the book by Frank L. Baum, or L. Lyman Frank Baum. So you know the movie, but most of you do not know is that the book that the movie is based off, L. Frank Baum's book, The Wonderful Wizard of Oz, within it, it lays out how to play both sides to win the bet. Answers why we're seeing what we're seeing today in like Minneapolis and other places and in the streets in the UK, 15-minute cities and the rest that they're gunning for a new order of the age. It's being made to order by playing both sides. People are being set up and they don't know it. With that, who in the heck is Lyman Frank Baum? It's very important you know the author of the book that the movie, the first of his, I think he wrote 40 books of the series about the Wizard of Oz, and this is the first one that the movie was based off of. He lived during the late 1800s and died, I think it was right 1919. Let me tell you a little bit about him and lay a little background. And this is all very important. So, I'm just sorry for the delay, but I have to lay a background and help you understand what I'm getting at before I jump into an article written about the Wizard of Oz that explains it all, which I'll be quoting from extensively. During the 1890s, Frank Baum, he wrote plays. He moved around and he moved to Aberdeen, South Dakota, when a severe drought struck the region. He owned a store which failed because of the drought. In it, he saw the farmers' plights that were being played out, what people don't know about. So he wrote in the Aberdeen paper, the Saturday Pioneer, an allegory of how farmers were being treated during this drought, how they were losing their farms to the big robber barons and bankers and the elites of his day and time. Some scenes are revealed in the movie as well as the book, but it's all allegory and it probably goes over your head because no one's ever bothered to explain it to you. So during that 1890s drought, big banking class, industrialists, robber barons, millionaires, and billionaires, you know how the left cries, we must go after the million and billionaires, right? Well, these types of people wanted to restrict all currency to a gold-backed money in order to keep a stable market. So all loans and payback were done by the gold standard, which was much higher loan rates than the silver-based currency would be. And most people could afford the silver, but they couldn't afford the rates of the bankers. And that was by design because they like to play both sides. Okay. So using a silver-based currency for loans was forbidden by these people who ran the banks. All major deals and loans were required to be paid back with the gold standard, which was the interest rate very high. In other words, you got to follow the yellow brick road. Follow the yellow brick road, we're all told, or as the old proverb says, you just find the cigar smoke, or you look for the cigar smoke, or you look where all the money is. That helps identify as the devil's game being played on people, both sides being played. Opposed to this gold standard and the banking elites making these types of loans were the silverites, who were farmers, miners, workers, the common people like you and me, who needed to borrow money using the cheaper silver-backed currency because gold standard loan rates were too expensive. So the elites used a crisis of a drought. I wonder if that happens today. I don't know. Maybe you think they would use a drought or some crisis created or otherwise to get what they want? You think that? I don't know. What that one guy said out of Obama's administration, Eric Holder, never let a good crisis go to waste, right? So the common people needed to lower rates, not the higher rates based on the gold standard, because they were too expensive. These people needed to ease the loan costs to keep them farming so they can eat and endure the drought and keep their farms and keep the miners mining. And there's a lot of money in land and in mining that a lot of these elites saw as their right to take in order to better and improve society. And but the common people needed the silver rate in order to stop the monopolies from cornering the money markets. Prior to all that was Teddy Roosevelt and the busting of the monopolies. You need to read your textbooks. I don't think they teach history anymore in school, but it's pretty boring about Standard Oil and the breaking up of the Rockefeller and Morgans and Chase and all those other people, all the monopolies. So the billionaire banking elites of Baum's day would not bend. They used the drought as a crisis to lawfully and legally force farm foreclosures on farmers' lands and take their lands and mines, whatever, because they could no longer receive gold-backed loans to keep their farms based on any type of silver currency because that was too cheap. You have to do it this way. And so they took the land by shady deals. That sound familiar? You think that happens today? You can tell me. Well, in order to gain control of everything, you got to play both sides against each other. You got to pit two sides against each other. Why? To bring all under one roof for the people's own good, because these people doing this have your best interest in heart. Interest as in money. I mean, I digress. In order to do so, if everybody's under the control of these people, they'll stop wars and greed. They'll housebreak everybody into compliance of group love, group conformity, and group control. That's the devil's game. Promise you the sun, moon, and the star by giving everything over to some type of class of people who just looking out for your own good, to take your land and property and by shady deals. In today's world, the elite billionaire finance protesters in protest. They do. Many of them do. It's being found out. Do I think anything's going to be done about it? Absolutely not. I don't think one single person will go to prison or jail. You know, this is my personal opinion about the protesters and stuff that are being financed by these people. Nothing is, you have illegal immigrant criminal elements who create violent crimes. Now, we need to get rid of those. But what about the ones who are peaceful, who never committed any crime? Are they going to be allowed to stay? Sounds like it. Play both sides. I hope I'm wrong, but I don't know. I just know how the game works. The wizard makes you blind, puts a veil over you so you can't see that. You just see what they want you to see. We're getting rid of illegal immigrants. Really? All of them? Or just the criminal element? Not the ones who illegally broke federal law to get in, who are lawbreakers themselves, who are going to fuel the Democratic Party to take, in the liberal parties, to take over everything and ensure compliance with the common people of the common citizens and take their rights and freedoms away like they're doing in Europe. I got it. I got the picture. Well, this is all done to win a sure bet. Back in the 1890s and early 1900s, they used the anarchist movement for implement social change of law and order. In comes, was it in the 1915 to 1924 or somewhere around in that frame, J. Edgar Hoover came into being and had all this stuff and ended up with the FBI to deal with criminal elements and all this stuff. It was all about that. Okay, so you fund these people to create chaos, to create a more equitable and inclusive world for social change. You just need to read your history books. History has a strange way of repeating itself. So they use crisis and fear and anarchy to gain and corner markets and keep the monopolies alive. They had to be broken up, so they created investment and holding firms. Some of them known today are BlackRock, Blackstone, just a few. So all the corporations now corner the market by all these independent big businesses join the hub and go into these investment firms. So you have a big monopoly of like-minded people making buku bucks. And then you have the new elites who are creating conflict, like in California with Newsom, up in Illinois, Minnesota and stuff, and also New York, and with Mandami and stuff. And they're going, and also now Virginia is now for communist. And so you're going to, like they're doing, 274, quote me if I'm wrong, something like 274 Walmarts are going to close because and a lot of places in California will be without grocery stores. And a lot of places are going to shut down. Also, Target's doing the same thing, moving out of California, moving out of Illinois, because these people they want everybody on a gold standard of their ideology, and they like to play both sides, and they like to create chaos and demonize people in order to carry it out. So they create a socialist utopia. So this happened way back then. So they created these holding and investment firms and banking firms to bring all the big businesses together under one monopolized roof without it being called a monopoly, because you're in an investment. This is an investment company. It's a holding firm. under one roof, it'll be theirs without breaking the law against the monopolies of the robber barons. They did this back then to gain control of the money and also to control the people and the repercussions of dissatisfied populations, of knowing that their money no longer has any value. They're talking about flipping everything over to digital currency soon. So this is why this backdrop is very historical backdrop is very important to where I'm going with this. So you can understand in terms that you can understand. So to control people, they stir up disorder and strife and lawlessness. They pay the protesters. They supply them with the cinder blocks and the bricks, water bottles, heat, whatever, for two main reasons. The first one is to silence any resistance by demonizing it, and second, to induce fear. So fear and a cry for law and order so they can come as the knights in shining armor. And they do this so people will willingly give up their rights and liberty and lands to them, all for the betterment of humanity. Their idea is, not yours. It's sold to us because they cornered the market of media, government, commerce, all the mountains of cultural influence. This is the plan of Theosophy, the occult version I call the Theosophy, the brainchild of the satanic community. And they came up with an elaborate plan to take over the education, government, media, commerce, movies, everything out to propagandize for a new order of the age to happen, a brave new paradise world of group love. Oh, you got to love everybody. Let everybody into your country. They have a right to be here. Open borders. It proves you have group love. And it's all about them taking your property, your land, just like they did in about every communist takeover, socialist stuff. And before that, divine right of kings was warned about in the Bible with King Saul. God warned about if you have a king, he's going to own everything, including your sons and your daughters. You ain't going to own nothing. God knows what he's talking about. These are the people spoken of in the Bible and Psalms 2. Why do the nations rage and the peoples or the kings of the earth plot vain things, taking counsel, saying, let us break against God and his anointed Jesus Christ or his followers? Why? Let's break off the bonds of them. They are the oppressors. God's going to laugh at them and hold them in derision. Yep, we see that in the book of Revelation coming to pass soon enough. So all these people are under the guise of making a more loving, kind world. Karl Marx summed up very well how to do this. It wasn't Das Kapital or the other one. I can't remember the name of it. But he said, every form of society has been based on the antagonism of oppressing and the oppressed classes, the oppressing classes versus the oppressed classes. So you play the side of the oppressor as well as the oppressed class to destroy the order that exists, to create your own paradise. That's the name of the game. That's Satan's game plan. Lineman Frank Baum thought himself on the good guy side of things back in the day with the farmers. Why is that? Well, first off, you need to realize, and I'll read it to you in a minute, he was a member of the Theosophical Society. He was an occultist, along with his wife and his mother-in-law, who I'll speak about in a second too. They joined in 1896, and he started writing The Wizard of Oz probably about two years before it was published. I think the copyright was 1899 or something, and it was published 1900. So he was an occultist. You got to understand that before he wrote The Wonderful Wizard of Oz. And in fact, he attended Theosophical meetings with his wife and mother-in-law, who were involved, his mother-in-law especially, involved in Theosophy. A very famous lady, by the way, that most of you don't even know exists. This all came about by the urging of Frank Baum's mother-in-law, a devout member of Theosophy, Matida Gage. Why is this important? Well, it's important because her birthplace, her house, is made a shrine, and it's protected by the National Park Service. You can go visit it. Why is that important? You go look up her name. You'll find out she was instrumental in the women's suffrage movement of the 1890s and 1900s and the woman right to vote thing. Okay? Matida Gage was a prominent writer and a major women's right and advocate for the downtrodden. Okay? A real theosophist, right? A real liberal cat lady. That's who this person was. She worked alongside Susan B. Anthony. Yes, Susan B. Anthony's image is engraved in a coin, a dollar coin for the minute by the U.S. Mint. You can get them. You can order them. You can get them. And so to honor the women's right movement, so the women's right activist Susan B. Anthony distanced herself, had said, I can't have anything to do with Matilda. And so there was a rift between the two due to why? Due to Matilda's extremist radical feminist views. Matida Gage today would fit right in with the worst modern day feminist aging liberal white cat fighting lady. She would fit right in with that group of people. Here are a few quotes from Matilda herself to explain why this rift occurred, and Susan B. Anthony wanted to distance herself from this radical, crazy person, theosophist. Why? Let me quote some. Matida Jocelyn Gage, and I'm going to say all my quotes, all my documentation is in the description. Everything's there, and you can check this out. So Matida Jocelyn Gage stated, a rebel, how glorious the name sounds when applied to a woman. Oh, the rebellious woman, to you the world looks in hope. Upon you has fallen the glorious task of bringing liberty to earth and all the inhabitants thereof. This is pure theosophic mumbo jumbo. Play both sides. Come as the liberator, actually be the enslaver, but I digress. Oh, that's not the whole thing. And I'm sure Susan B. Anthony could agree with a little bit of that. But she goes on to say, women should unite upon a platform of opposition to the teaching and the aim of that ever most unscrupulous enemy of freedom, the church. She goes on to say, listen carefully, student of history, will discover that Christianity has been the very little value in advancing civilization, but has done a great deal toward retarding it. Matida Joshua Gage. So Susan B. Anthony wisely and politically distanced herself from old Matilda because most of her followers were devout Christian women. Just a little too much. And a lot of those women had great husbands. And this woman hated men. She had an agenda, play both sides. This also mirrors the sentiment and philosophies of Karl Marx, communism, fascism, progressivism, monarchy, totalitarianism, kings, divine right of kings, emperors, on down through history. Matida was very heavily involved in Theosophy, in the Theosophical Society, in league with its goal to build back a better world free from the robber barons who are in reality playing both sides. In fact, many of that elitist striped billionaire class that we would call today were fellow members of the Theosophical Society too, that she attended. Kind of strange, isn't it? Their goal is to make a new nirvana on earth, a nirvana on earth. That's the devil's game. You pit two opposite sides together to create a paradise for parasites. You heard me right. They want to create a paradise for parasites. They are the parasites. The Theosophical Society also adores many of the teachings of the real Jesus Christ spoken of in the Bible. They use these to play off of people's emotions, yet they are extremely hostile to true biblical Christianity. Matilda there, I just read you a couple of examples of what they really think of the church. They call anybody who believes in the Judaic Christian principles and Western principles of society and law and order and stuff as reactionary people who need to be eradicated. They will demonize you as the enemy worthy of expungement. They do this to play both sides. They need a conflict, chaos to let people's guard down so the right hand doesn't know what the left hand's doing, so they can create this perfect world. That's the devil's game. So the Theosophical Society began its own slow infiltration of Christianity or Christendom to hijack it away from its true roots, because out of the ashes of the old order arises a new world religion. Alice Bailey, Theosophist Alice Bailey's own words, a new world, one world religion. That's her words, not mine. You can misuse and misquote Jesus' saying and to take over the world. All for peace and safety, of course. How does that occur? You play both sides. And by playing both sides, by pitting sides against each other, creating conflict and stuff, gives occultism its fortitude and grit needed to burn down the system and rebuild it back better. I think you heard that phrase somewhere before. In order to create a brave new world where one owns nothing and you'll be happy, and thus control the production of man's thoughts, desires, plans, roles, all manner of life, and control their work too. You know, you are you're naturally a worker, so they want to put you to. Never mind. This is just like they do in Davos today. By design, they make free market capitalism fail by clever ruse. They move into a totalitarian world where the AI does everything for you in your 15-minute prison city. I heard these things from speeches from Noah Harari as well as Larry Fink of BlackRock on Davos. You can get those online, just spoken recently. Well, they play both sides to create chaos, corner the ultimate market, which is the production of mankind's heart, soul, your state of being, your humanity. They want that type of production. In fact, Lyman Frank Baum's book, The Wonderful Wizard of Oz, believe it or not, allegorically lays out this very plan in its pages. You follow the yellow brick road. You follow. It's all based on the same theosophic ideas I just showed you. Okay? This book and its movie is a theosophic grimoire. It's a way to, we call it a predictive behavior programming modification technique to break you in slowly to where they want to go down the yellow brick road. I'm going to tell you what the yellow brick road is in a minute. And this is taught to masses to shape society without anyone getting the wiser. And it's slow, it's steady, with a lot of grit. In fact, Vladimir Lenin said of this process, give us a child for 8 years and he calls a child it, give us a child for 8 years and it will be a Bolshevik forever. It'll be a Mandami Bolshevik, a social democrat, because Vladimir Lenin was a social democrat and headed that party. The murderous thug. Alice Bailey in Education of the New Age on page 79 online states it like this. There are steps in which humanity must take, and only a new type of education with a different attitude to educational processes imposed upon the very young of every nation will enable mankind to take them. A new cycle of experience, of psychological development, and a new educational process is imminent. That is why education in many states right now is so bad. Public education stinks in many places. There's reports came out that a large segment of educated kids in the public schools do not know how to read. You're taught equity, diversity, and inclusion, and you're taught toxic masculinity and sexuality, things that kindergartners, first, second, third, to up to 12th grade don't really need to know about, Maybe in 7th to 12th grade, they've been better learn something about sexuality, but, just the nature of human beings, that is. But, that's why our education system is so bad. They have to dumb down people in order to create the crisis of need, because you got to make people who don't know how to do diddly squat. So they'll rely on a powerful authority who corners the market of ideas, market of your soul. As a theosophist, a follower of the Theosophical Society, Mr. Frank Baum wrote his book to help aid the dissemination of secret divine wisdom packaged in an easily digested fairy tale. Only those in the know would see its allegorical method of grooming children who will later become leaders of the future and thus move the world toward a better, more compassionate, equitable, diverse, socialist, Marxist utopia. If you don't believe me, explain how Mandami got elected mayor of New York City, and the governor and all the Democrats got into power in Virginia, and Waltz and the governor of Illinois and up in the New England states and New York City, the Blue State Democrat Party. They're mad. They're crazed. I mean, I'm telling you, you just look at them. And all this is spurred on by crazed middle-aged white liberal women, and they train and Fabian socialists like Kara Starmer in the EU and in the UK. The Australians and New Zealand are infected. The whole Western world is infected with this stuff. A push for a Fabian-style communist fascism. Open borders, housebreak your citizens because they had it so good, they exploited, they were the oppressor class, they did not know it. So they have to pay back all what they've stolen by allowing illegal migration to flood your cities, and you must kowtow to them in effervescence, to bow to them forever and ever. There's no forgiveness for you, ever, unless you give up your right to think, your property, your house to these people, because they deserve it, because you are the oppressor. You never oppressed anybody, but they label you as that, so that some rich elites can corner the market of everything. Isn't that nice? Just like back in Baum's day. All of them are favorable to the goals of occult theosophy. Create a more inclusive, diverse, equitable world based on group love, group conformity, all maintained by group control, or as the Marxists put it, governed by a Soviet Workers' Council, or as Alice Bailey stated in Problems of Humanity, she did state this, to create a World Economic Council to ensure compliance of the masses, where the elites would meet. The World Economic Council has developed into a WEF in Davos. She literally prophesied that would come about. She stated this in the, I think, between 1935 to 45 or something when she wrote that. Could be in the late 1940s before she died. The World Economic Council didn't come. It's called the European Council by Klaus Schwab, and later the World Economic Forum, and a synonym of forum is council. Or as the Bible states, you must get a mark and worship the beast and get a mark, or else you can't buy or sell or live. I mean, you need the mark. You got to eat, right? You got to get this mark. Digital currency. In fact, L. Frank Baum stated that his work, The Wizard of Oz, came to him from out of the blue. In other words, it was channeled to him, the same format as Theosophists do, to be channeled to. And Mr. Baum admits to this, and I quote Frank Baum himself on this, when he's speaking about The Wizard of Oz and how he wrote it. It was pure inspiration. It came to me right out of the blue. I think that sometimes the great author of the universe, architect of the universe, masonry, the great author has a message to get across, and he has to use an instrument at hand. I happen to be that medium. Of course, well chosen words. And I believe the magic key. Yep, yeah, the magic key. It was given to me to open the doors. Yep, to sympathy and understanding of joy, peace, and happiness by this book, to bring this new age, everybody into this new age of group love, group conformity that the Theosophy Society wants everybody under, that is controlled by an elite class who monopolizes everything, including the production of your thoughts. You have to have only happy thoughts. Get that mark, I'm telling you. Make sure you have happy thoughts. So they want to open the doors to sympathy and understanding. Joy, peace, and happiness is the mantra of Luciferianism and Satanist. This is all about sympathy greater sympathy and empathy and understanding of joy and peace and happiness. We're the loving, tolerant ones. If you don't agree with us, we'll hex you to death, and we will, we need to be eradicated. But we love you. Of Luciferian, and how dare anyone be against such goodness, is how they reason. Well, such goodness is based on deception by playing both sides against each other. That what is known as the Black Lodge versus the White Lodge, and Alice Bailey explains it very well. And the reason I'm giving you this without jumping into the article about this, because you need to understand the White Lodge, Black Lodge thing. It's very important. Education New Age, Chapter 2, Nature of Esotericism. Links are below. If you will study what I have earlier given, she said, of Annette, are concerning certain of the higher and lower expression of the rays, which means the rays, 7 rays to initiate humanity into new world groupthink, you will see how these two fields of endeavor, that of the hierarchy, the fallen watcher hierarchy, animated by love, and that of the opposite pole, the Black Lodge, working entirely through the mind and substance, are emerged in their close relationship, will emerge. You will realize that the margin of difference is very slight and is to be found solely in attention. In Externalization of Hierarchy, page 40 in the PDF, online PDF, she says the two forces are used to increase tension in the world. The forces of materialism streaming out of the 3 worlds, I won't explain all that, I'll explain that in a minute, from the so-called dark forces or Black Lodge, and from those groups of lives and workers which are antithesis of the great White Lodge. Play both sides. The yin-yang principle. Create chaos to turn everything into a gray, bleak world. Group love, group conformity, okay? And she goes on and says, there's little I can tell you about the dark forces. They are not the problems of humanity, but of that of the hierarchy. So basically, through infiltration, through spell casting, it'll motivate a certain group of people to be jerks, to justify pitting sides against each other. And the church is largely ignorant of this type of spiritual warfare that's being done. The cult world uses it. Church, by and large, is ignorant of how it operates. And I continue to quote, and they work to prevent the understanding of that which is of the New Age. In other words, the Dark Lodge prevents understanding of what is the New Age all about, group love, group conformity. They endeavor to preserve that which is familiar and old, to counteract the effects of oncoming culture and civilization, to bring blindness to people, to feed steadily on the existing fires of hate, of separateness, and criticism, and cruelty. These forces, as far as intelligent people of the world are concerned, work insidiously and cloak their effort in fair words, leading even disciples to express hatred of persons and ideologies, fostering the hidden seeds of hatred found in many human beings, end quote. What she's saying, the Dark Lodge's purpose is to create the conditions of for hate to come about. Not so much their hate. They're saying that you are the hater. If you like law and order, you like closed borders, you like to raise your family, you like to exist and have some liberty and freedom of your own, which this nation was founded upon, you are now a nationalist and an enemy of society in the world, and we must hate you. So they use the Black Lodge to stain everybody that way. They're the problem of the hierarchy to get rid of. They call them reactionary people. And they even work in the midst of them to create the conditions of it. And a lot of them don't know what they're doing. They start talking all this about Christian nationalism. All Christian nationalism is Nazism. No. Nazism is fascism. I'm sorry, it is. It's communistic in some of its approaches. Not the economic approaches, but they corner the market. It's just like communists do. The socialists are basically influenced for a love of humanity, so they say. The White Lodge will wrongly demonize any who oppose them as the Black Lodge, as the enemy worthy of eradication. Say Donald Trump in the midst of a liberal protest, and you probably will not live for too long, or you'll have a very expensive hospital bill and extensive rehabilitation before you can walk again. Maybe never. Ensuring that the conflict is real to justify to burn the system down in order for them to build it back better in one collectivist whole of a certain group of people who own everything, and you'll be happy about it. This brings me back to on this article about L. Frank Baum's book, The Wonderful Wizard of Oz, written by the Theosophical Society itself, stating the real themes from one of its own members who admits to divine inspiration from above. So I'm going to bring this up here. Okay, how do I do this? Okay, I'm going to bring this up. Try this. Well, that didn't work. Hold on, folks. I had to make this a little larger. Had everything set up, and it did not do that. Whoops, that's that. I need this one bigger, and I need to put me up in the corner. This is from the Theosophical Society. The link is in the description below, so you can read it. This is what their interpretation of one of their own members from the Theosophical Society is, Mr. Frank Baum, who wrote the book, The Wonderful Wizard of Oz, The Perilous Journey. This is what Mr. Baum intended in his book. It's a case of predictive programming of young children who later become socialist minded in order for the greater good. I can't read everything because the print will be too small. I can try to enlarge it a little bit. Whoops. To enlarge it, I don't know if I can. Yeah, I can do a little bit of it. And let me see if I can. Right below Toto there, it says, although The Wizard is an extraordinary popular story, both in America and abroad, few people know that its author, L. Frank Baum, was a member of the Theosophical Society and wrote about Theosophy in the newspaper he edited for some 16 months in Aberdeen, South Dakota, about the farmers. And fewer yet have recognized that his great American fairy tale is also a theosophical allegory, spell casting, white magic from the White Lodge itself. So I'm not going to read the whole thing to you. I'm going to read parts of it, but I can't show it for any length of time. That's just trust me, I can't. The print is too small in some places, and I will end up kind of losing you too. So I'm going to quote from that extensively and comment on it. So the article goes on and giving the basic storyline of The Wizard of Oz, like the movie. Dorothy lives with her aunt and uncle, along with 3 farm workers and her little dog Toto too, all in Kansas. One day, a tornado strikes the farm, just like the movie. That's what Mr. Baum wrote about. Dorothy's dog runs and hides under the bed. Dorothy goes fetches her while her farm hands and aunt and uncle hide in the storm cellar. And then the tornado hits the house, and the tornado takes the house up the spiral of the tornado. So they are inside the house as the tornado is spinning them ever further and carrying them into another world called the Land of Oz. And the house, as it does in the movie, falls in the easternmost part of the Land of Oz, right on top of the Wicked Witch of the East, killing her, thus freeing the Munchkin inhabitants of that land from her slavery. And they all go around in the movie singing, the Wicked Witch is dead, the Wicked Witch is dead, okay. And thus freeing the Munchkin inhabitants from her slavery. East symbolizes in Theosophy human birth into the insulating material world, where one travels west only to die. East and West decide the birth and rebirth through illumination, through ever increasing rebirths into the material world and out of it into the spiritual world through reincarnation. So when you finally get it right, you can enter into paradise, a whole brave new world of pure spirit being. I'm not going to go and explain Theosophy's the root race ages of H.P. Blavatsky and all that, which correlates with the 7 rays of initiating humanity into this muddled thinking. Just to let you know who the Wicked Witch of the East is. Dorothy is troubled, and I'm quoting from the article, is troubled by all the strangeness. And then I'm just going to kind of paraphrase. Right now, I'm going to paraphrase what the article says. So she's troubled by the strangeness she finds herself in and wants to get back to Kansas. That's all. So she is advised by the Munchkins that she needs to consult, or Gilda, or Glinda, whatever her name is, Glinda, the Good Witch of the South, who says, oh, you must go see the wizard, okay, who lives in the Emerald City in the center of the land of Oz. She is advised to wear the silver shoes, silver slippers, which in the movie transformed them into ruby red slippers because silver reflected the light off, was too bright, and it was just too distracting. So they put ruby red slippers, just some slippers with some glitter on it. Ruby red slippers with glitter. These little flakes of glitter, round little things. I don't know what you call them, but it's actually silver, which is very important to know. Silver in Baum's day represented freedom for the of the common man away from the bonds of the rich oppressors, that type of thing. That's why it's important. And so she's transformed. So she wears the silver shoes that belong to the Wicked Witch of the East because everybody knows they are magic, and though nobody knows what they do. Dorothy and Toto then set out on the yellow brick road for the Emerald City, and on the way they meet their 3 companions: a scarecrow, a tin man or tin woodsman, and a cowardly lion. They all meet up, and together they got the hope that the Wizard of Oz will be able to give them all and everything they desire. The scarecrow needed brains. The tin man needed a heart, and a heart because the love he felt for a young Munchkin lass, a young lady, and some wicked witch put a spell and broke up their relationship and turned him into a tin man. Okay, I won't get into all. It's all in the book. I'm not going to get into it right now. I have the book. Unfortunately, it's in a box. I just showed it to you, but all that's in the book. And a cowardly lion, who wanted not to be cowardly anymore, in the hope that the wizard will be able to give them everything that they desire. Okay, brains and everything like that, heart and courage. So they reach the Emerald City. They meet the wizard. I'm just giving a synopsis of the Wizard of Oz story in case you don't know it out of the book. And says he's going to grant their request, but they must first do something, tit for tat thing. This is, you got to reach a higher occult level. You got to do this and that, okay? You got to go to the western part of Oz and kill the Wicked Witch of the West in this reincarnation thing. So everybody enter in pure spirit state Gnosticism, but I digress. They succeed when Dorothy throws a bucket of water on the witch, which dissolves her, and that water symbolizes something. I'll tell you in a minute. After they return to the Emerald City, the wizard, for a time, puts them off. He doesn't want to see him. Then the great, terrible Wizard of Oz confesses that he's a humbug. The Toto pulls back the curtain and all that stuff. He was a balloonist from Nebraska who worked in a circus, and he ended up drifting there. That's what he tells him. But that he'll keep his promises. So he gives the scarecrow a new brain, puts a new heart made of stuffed silk inside the tin man's chest, guarantee him it will never break again, and gives a cowardly lion a little green bottle filled with courage to drink as needed. For Dorothy, the wizard builds a hot air balloon, or had one built, depending on the movies, there's already built, to sail both back home, but her dog Toto runs off, and she goes out to chase it, and the balloon snaps free with the wizard in it and the humbug in it, and they fly off, and she's left stranded. Then Glinda, the Good Witch of the South, appears and tells Dorothy that all along she had the power to go back to Kansas whenever she wants by clicking her silver shoes 3 times. 3 short steps, and back in Kansas she goes. Why 3? Well, in Theosophy, the number 3 symbolizes the transition to unify spirit and soul and body to achieve harmony and balance on earth. It's the triangle. It's the pathway to travel to arrive as united to the will of the hierarchy, the fallen watchers, or Lucifer. Humanity learns in time to unite one's physical, emotional, and astral and mental worlds to achieve universal brotherhood through comparative study or critique in exploring natural laws and using them, laws of magic stuff, needed to overcome binary oppositional thinking, the Dark Lodge, and thus attain harmonious unity of all things. That is what is the story about. And from this, let me quote from the article and comment here. So I'm going to be right now starting directly quoting. It is a lengthy introduction. It is a long introduction. I'm not going to read that whole thing to you. And plus the print will be too small. And so I want to do this. So the link to the article is in the description below, the last link there. And I cannot show all of it, but Section 107 of the Copyright Act, I'm using this as commentary for education. And to quote the Theosophical Society, The Wizard of Oz is a perilous journey, the Wicked Witch of the West. Okay, so this is the title of the article, and I already showed it to you, and I'll bring it again up here. Whoops. No, you can't see it. There, Oz. The Wizard of Oz, Perilous Journey. So I just want to make sure, that's the link. And so I'm going to be quoting from this. So let me bring up my quotes here. And I quote, "The Wizard of Oz has all the essentials of a true fairy tale set in perilous enchanted land where human protagonist is engaged in a quest. After many perilous adventures, the protagonist returns home having fulfilled the quest. The Wizard of Oz is also remarkably a theosophical fairy tale. It is indeed a theosophical oratory." I just read that to you earlier. "Consider the first two lands of Oz and Kansas. They have symbols, okay? They have symbols. They are the setting of the story and provide the chief theme of the story. Dorothy is questing in Oz. She's living in Oz. Oh, no, she's questioning Oz's existence, okay? She's questioning and going on this quest. Oh, yeah, it's questing. So Dorothy is going on a quest in Oz with the aim of returning to Kansas. The two countries are obviously cardinal importance to the story and its meaning, because Baum was a theosophist, okay? And it channeled to him as well. Kansas is depicted as a gray, colorless, flat, featureless landscape, the Dark Lodge, and so it is sometimes thought to represent the ordinary, dull world of reality, Gnosticisms, the material world, Hermeticisms, the mundane world that we all are trapped in by this evil demiurge, Judaic-Christian God. Yes. Oz, on the other hand, is a vibrant and with color and adventure and interesting people and things, so it's thought to represent the world of imagination and fantasy. It's also Hermeticism's idea here of liberation from the mundane. If you know anything about this, you know what I'm talking about. I don't have time to explain it to you. I've done it enough on my channel. Such an interpretation, however, does not comfortably fit the overall plot of the story. Although, I should bring this up so I can read it better. Okay. Although Dorothy enjoys Oz while sometimes being a little frightened by it, all she wants to do from the time she first arrives there until the silver shoes carry her away is to get back home to Kansas. Oz is a nice place to visit, but Dorothy wants to live in Kansas, aka reality. In the story, Kansas, not Oz, is the desirable place to be. It's very important here. We can see two important things about the land of Oz if we look at a map of the country, which is one of those published by the International Wizard of Oz clubs, an organization of people who like Oz books, who share their enthusiasm with one another. One of the things to note is that Oz has a central green area, the Emerald City, surrounded by 4 regions, each with different symbolic colors: blue, yellow, red, and purple. In the movie The Wizard of Oz, there's a scene there where there's different rows. They all meet in this Munchkin village, and they have different colors. And she's told to follow the yellow brick road, not the purple or the red or the blue. Okay, I think in the movie it was a blue one. So anyway, with the overall shape of a 4-sided figure, so Oz is shaped like a square rectangle, not like that, but in like that. A different. I don't have a way to show you, but anyway, a 4-sided figure, a square at an angle. The top of the square is north, the sides face east and west, and the bottom faces south. That's a good way to put it. Let me add, this mocks what the book of Revelation reveals about the New Jerusalem. In occult theosophy, each of the four-sided square rectangles symbolizes structure, community, as well as the four cardinal directions, north, east, and south, and west. It also represents spiritual direction, or spiritual awareness used over time that is essential for navigation and orientation needed to bring harmony and balance from the universe, from the universal mind, to help people develop into their psyche of every human being a new way to think. You got to think of thought control, brainwashing, or as it's described in Ezekiel chapter 13, verse 17 through 23, speaking of how the occult world puts veils over people's minds. Okay? And does dark magic to eradicate people before their time and all kinds of things, and tells you how to fight that stuff, but not here to talk about that today. So what they're doing is they're trying to get you to have a group think about group love is okay, group conformity, and group control by a hierarchy of self-appointed leaders who are under the influence of the fallen watchers to rule the world, who corner the market, who own everything and you own nothing, and you will be happy about it. Next, the color of the Emerald City has esoteric meaning because for them, emerald green relates to levels of spiritual growth and renewal and climbing ever levels of spirituality and renewal and abundance that is only actualized in various spiritual practices like rituals and yoga, deep breathing of the OM that Alice Bailey talked at length about. It also symbolizes the connecting rod of guidance into ever higher levels of spiritual reality and hope and growth and all this stuff. It's just new and higher and higher and higher levels. You never are high enough, but I digress. Each directional color of Oz also has esoteric meaning for the white and dark lodges. For example, blue symbolizes peace, intuition, and spiritual aspiration. Yellow is related to human expanding mind of ever reaching for higher and higher spiritual clarity, enlightenment, optimism, fueled by intellectual curiosity. Like Gnosticism, Theosophy is a parasitic religion that will explore all religious paths and melds every one of these to form a one-world religion. So the yellow brick road is the way of traveling in this world to bridge the gap between the physical world and the spiritual world through levels of enlightenment and development through yoga techniques, breathing techniques, and all this other stuff, okay? It's a parasitic thing. Next, red symbolizes the life force of the White Lodge's higher forms of vitality, passion, and courage needed to combat the lower Black Lodge of the physical material world of anger and greed and materialism. So, I wrote down here, see the pillars. You have a pillar system here. These pillars are seen in masonry. You have the black pillar of severity, justice, dominance, and order. That's the divine feminine. The pillar of mercy, compassion, and love, called the masculine. That's the white pillar. There's a third pillar in the background. It's the central pillar of the crown, the eye, illumination from Lucifer to produce equilibrium, union, fusion state. And the Eastern lore is the Savata, which means after you travel 3 virtuous ways, which I'll explain later, of achieving purity equilibrium by means of a Perilous, which means dissolving and melting away. The water is thrown on the witch of the west and melts away, okay? Termination to bring into a non-existing state, thus erasing God's design by blending of the masculine and feminine together to create synthesis of unity, harmony, balance, a nirvana. And I wrote down here, I use this for another video about Hegel, but just to let you know, to give you an idea what I'm talking about, what they're talking about here. So, lastly, purple symbolizes the higher spiritual vibrations of awakening, receiving, and entering into divine wisdom known as the crown charka. With it, the transformation of consciousness is a bridge between the physical and spiritual realms. Purple is often associated with the transmutation, changing into a new form. higher form, godlike form, divine, out of the lower negative energies into a ever higher evolving one. Sounds like a bunch of garbage, doesn't it? Well, it is. It's more. This purple represents a more refined spiritual light, connected to the higher spiritual realms, connecting to the divine mind of Lucifer's illuminating light of liberation, attained by developing higher levels of intuition, of connecting to the spirit guides, to attain transcendence, so that one day you enter into your pure spirit state after periods of reincarnations. Okay. Unless the second law of thermodynamics comes in and everything that was reincarnated to goes into oblivion and goes into non-existent. But anyway, I digress. So I'm going to get back to the article. This land, I'm quoting the article now, this land is bounded on all four sides by an impassable desert, a ring past not that isolates Oz from all the other lands. These ingredients of topography, I can't pronounce that word, topography of Oz, the impassable barrier, the four-sidedness symbolized colors, the circle and the center are also ingredients of a mandala. And they go on, the article explains what a mandala is. Oz is a mandala. The land of Oz is a mandala. Mandalas represent the human psyche and the world of samsara, which means a manifold, beautiful, enticing, but also frightening world of differentiation and becoming. It's the savata. It's a dissolving of being and becoming one with everything through one's search to arrive at unity, harmony, peace, and safety. That's what it's used for. So mandalas help guide human psyche to finally arrive at unity, harmony, peace, and safety. And in Thessalonians, it says, when they say peace and safety has arrived, sudden destruction comes. This is old as the hill stuff here. And that is what, and I go back to the article, and that is what Oz is. Oz is a samsara, the seductive world of earthly beauty, material world, which draws the soul into it. You and I live in Oz. It is this world, this various grappled world, this magical world of divided beauty of the White Lodge and the Dark Lodge. Okay. Kansas, on the other hand, this is from the article. This is what Theosophists believe. This is what Baum was getting at. Kansas, on the other hand, is that world from which we have come before we find ourselves in the perilous land that's of the separate self, the material world of the Dark Lodge. So this is the Oz is the part of the mind, the higher self that connects with the hierarchy and guides your imagination to defeat the material urges of your animalistic nature of the material world. Enforced by the Dark Lodge, to put two sides together to create harmony. This is the yin-yang principle, the two-pillar system. I'll explain that in a minute. The material world needs to be built back better. That's the whole point. Kansas is the permanent world of oneness from which we all have come and to which we are destined to return. Ashes to ashes and dust to us, dust to dust. Okay. It is our source and our goal. Kansas is Devakian or nirvana, represents nirvana. Like Dorothy, we have but one purpose in the world of Oz, this samsara of changing appearance, and that is to get home to Kansas, the nirvana of permanent truth. What it's saying here is the purpose of the book is to get back and make heaven on earth. From the occultic point of view, a group of people who control you into group love, group conformity, and group control. That's the Theosophy way Alice Bailey wrote about. And you want to burn down like this. I'll say it like this. You burn down Kansas to build it back better and base it on the permanent truth of Theosophy and Luciferianism. Be guided by Lucifer. That's what it's saying. In other words, here, let me just kind of explain it like this. You need secret truth is needed to change the material world into the pure state of group love. You build it back better way is to unite the mundane world with spiritual unity guided by the divine mind of Lucifer and his hierarchies, fallen watchers, in order to find liberation from the mundane world you live in, and eventually liberate the entire world from its dreary grayness through your imagination and exploring the unknown things, secret knowledge, and every other religion in the world. So let me get back to the article. In using, and I quote the article, in using Kansas to stand for perfection, Baum was undoubtedly having a little fun. Undoubtedly having a little fun. The reputation of Kansas in Baum's day or ours does not live up to what we expect of the Davakianism or Nirvanaism at all. Baum himself undoubtedly was ambivalent about the Great Plains, including the Dakotas, where he lived for a while. In Kansas, the archetype of Kansas is the heartland of America. Okay. Baum makes much of the flat, gray, dry appearance of Kansas in the first chapter of The Wonderful Wizard of Oz. It is not an attractive place. However, each of those negative features can also be thought of in a positive way, especially as the characteristics of nirvana. Nirvana is simply a state of nothingness, or as the Star Trek fame movie did with Captain Picard and meets Captain Kirk in the Nexus. Nirvana is the nexus of you just exist and you're here in this grayness, in this perfect world. And that's what it's talking about. Part of Baum's joke is that the things, Baum's joke, and I'm quoting the article, things that are never really what they seem. Dorothy seems to be a simple and harmless little girl, but is she who kills the wicked witches of both East and West. The Scarecrow seems to lack brains, but he has all the ideas of the company. The Tin Woodsman seems to lack heart, but he's also full of sentiment that he's always weeping. The Cowardly Lion seems to be a coward, but he takes brave action whenever it's called for. So let me add here. These three represent what feminists call toxic masculinity, as having no brains, but only domination and power. They have no heart like the superior women have, and no courage to change what is needed to change their toxic masculinity into the feminine part to provide balance. This is dualism. This is what H.P. Blavatsky would call, next to godliness, is androgyny, the real divine state of mankind. The Tin Man was once a man who loved a girl. He was, and she was that girl, like a girl or somebody, was put under a spell that broke his heart. That is in the book. In other words, feminist desires to break men's hearts by placing spells on young girls to hate womanhood. They're the warrior princes. They need to become masculine. Baum's mother-in-law, Matida Gage, was a radical feminist who influenced him, and Mr. Baum himself was a feminist who wrote this allegory in there. This is the template of modern feminism. This lays out their plan to destroy men and reframe what masculinity is about and what true feminism is about. The esoteric satanic feminist plan is to demasculize men so they are no longer protectors and fight against these evil plans. So you need to take away their brains, hardwire into manhood as God designed as the good husbands, good fathers, good providers, the pillars and the protectors of society will have to be taken away in order to create this perfect world. You have to get rid of masculinity. Keep tracking with me. The first stage of the plan is to break man's heart by placing spell of feminism into young girls to hate men, use men, and treat them like manure, spelled with an S and a T at the end. This is done so that men will begin to lack courage, because such relationships break men's courage and their willingness to defend, protect families, their wives, their girlfriends, their kids against true deceptive evil. Women naturally, as God designed them, these women do have detectors. They can detect scammers, especially, but this was corrupted by the fall. They can detect deception of fellow women. My own wife told me, that woman's looking at you. That woman has ulterior motives, and she was right 100% of the times. Never knew that she would ever be wrong in that case. You ladies have a detection button that's been perverted, but when it comes to other women, you can detect the phoniness of them. You can detect the bad girls, don't you? That's why a lot of women don't like to go to Bible study, women's Bible study groups. But anyway, I don't want to get into that. So women can detect deception of fellow women, but not so much with an abusive man. They'll fall for it. This pits two sides together in order to reform man. This is what the scarecrow, the Tin Man, and the cowardly lion, the lion represent, is the destruction of masculinity through feminism. This pits two sides together to reform men. They need a quest in life to get a new feminized brains, softer, more compassionate, gentler hearts of womanhood, and the courage forced upon them to flip the script of manhood. So let me show you this again. You have the pillar of severity, justice, and dominance and order that used to be called toxic masculinity, is now called is the new feminism, that the women flip and become dominants, social justice warriors, crazy people of dominance, warrior princes. Okay. Now the pillar of mercy, compassion, and love is the masculine pillar of white pillar, the white lodge, and that means men have to become woman-like, and women have to be men-like. Why? To create union and fusion, to erase the old order into a state of nirvana and nothingness and build it back better, a new humanity. How you like them apples? You didn't expect that in the movie, did you? I never did. Yes, I got to tell you, there are toxic men, but the majority of men are not toxic. The enemy likes to play both sides and pit extremes against each other and using them as a template for all, only by magnifying the stereotypes as the normality of things. All men are bad. They need a heart. They need brains. They need to think more like women. They need courage to change. And you women are placed under a spell to be toxic women warriors, so you'll emasculate men in your relationships. Woo! We fuse the two together. We destroy the family in the process, which is a goal of Theosophy and Satanism as well. And destroy God's order and design. Wow, this all fits, doesn't it? You emasculate men by giving them new courage and a magic bottle to transition into the opposite of manhood. Needed to provide and take care of the family. Thus, the family needs destroyed. Feminism is designed to destroy male and female relationship and families. Bet you didn't see that in The Wizard of Oz, in the book you read or you watched in the movie. Compare it with the reality which you witness every day. So let's get back to the article. In fact, many of you guys have been hurt by toxic feminism. Younger women. I'm an older guy. My wife and I are from a different generation in time, and we really loved each other. But I hear so many guys, even in my own age bracket, they get a hold of some of these younger gals and these. It's hell on earth. This is why. To destroy man, husband and wife relationships, corrupt them, base everything on hostile, evil stereotypes. And the Bible's right about what it said about Eve. She was enticed to fall. She wants her husband's power and dominance and its authority. This is brought out in the pillar, occult pillar thing seen in Masonry. The male of severity, justice, dominance, protector now is the feminine, and the masculine has to be turned into the more women, like the two flip sides, to create balance and harmony and unity, to reach this higher state of being, of peace and safety. So now let me quote the article. The wizard seems to be great and powerful, but he's actually a humbug. Oz seems to be a glorious and delightful land in Kansas to be dry, gray, and dull, but Oz is the world of illusion, Maya, called Maya, M-A-Y-A, Maya. And Kansas is in reality of home. Things are not what they seem in Oz or Kansas because they need to be brought in unity with each other. So let me add this to try to help you explain to this article. This is saying that Oz and Kansas both need liberation, satanic liberation, guided through Luciferianism, through its own hellish induced domain, as reality can only be solved through collectivism. A collectivism that always fails time and time again, east and west, till the fusion of unity is forced by crisis to achieve compliance. It's kind of what I'm trying to say, if you're following me. Let me get back to the article. I don't want to lose you too much on that side trip. So, and I quote the article, if we look at the map of Oz again, we can discover a second important thing about it. The outline of the land of Oz is that of a rectangle. The land of Oz is on the same shape as the state of Kansas. Oz is Kansas. The two places in the fairy tale are finally the same, just as Nirvana and Samsara are the same reality, only viewed differently. So we're in this reality, we're stuck between the spiritual world and the dull reality of the material world. We just need to bring the two together, and that comes by turning men to think like women and women to think like men, and we bring everybody into an androgynous mindset of godhood. Get in touch with the divine. You heard them say in Theosophy, that's what they mean. Men, get a back in the day, men, you must get in touch with your feminine side. Bull SHT. Come on. I don't have that side. I'm here to fight and slay dragons. I'm here to defend. I'm here to provide for my wife. I'm here. That's what God designed me to be. Don't tell me I must be feminized. I'll punch you in the mouth. It's like that's what you deserve. Hallelujah. Can I get an amen? Okay. How did I get off on that? Dorothy can go home so easily, the article goes on, with just 3 short steps, because in reality, she has nowhere to go. She is already home and needs only to realize that, in fact, in order to make the homecoming real. In other words, what this is saying, and I'll give you some stuff here, to return home and change the world, viva revolution. The revolution is the revolution until you come into unity. Okay. That's communism. Okay. So the revolution will fail. The revolution will fail. The revolution will keep failing. It'll keep failing until finally it'll succeed. That's the idea, to make the homecoming real. So let me get back to the story. Other aspects of the story are also symbolic. Dorothy's name, a variant of Dorothea, is a reversal of Theodora, which Dorothy means gift of God. As the name suggests, Dorothy is the gift of God, is the soul sent from God out of the nirvana, the bleakness of Kansas, to the samsara, the colorful world of Oz, here to find her way back again to the undifferentiated unity from which she comes. Let me put it this way. What that mumbo jumbo is saying, let me put it this way. Dorothy is the soul sent from God, called the divine feminine, the liberator to free the world from the mundane world of the demiurge Judaic Christian God. This triple goddess of the divine feminine is seen in the Bible as the whore of Babylon, who rides atop of a beast, who helps the Antichrist come to power by seducing the great men of the earth into this system of wanting to control and corner the markets. And when they see everything they control, all the gold and silver, they see all the products and commodities they produce all burn up in the day. They go, oh my, I could have had a V8. What did I do? The Lord will laugh and hold them in derision. You've been hoodwinked. So Dorothy represents a triple goddess of the divine feminine. That's all I'm saying. who's helping the Anarchists attain power to bring about this new nirvana utopic world, color back into the world. This also involves awakening womanhood into the radical feminism of Matida Gage, emasculate manhood and seduce the world and break men that they need new brains. They need a feminist heart. Get in touch with your feminist side. And you need the courage to man up and do this with a little bottle of courage from the occult world. So let me get back to the article. Waiting in Kansas, there Auntie Em and Uncle Henry, who represent the primordial feminine and masculine forces, the yin and yang, which H.P. Blavatsky called the Mala Parakatari or something. It means, and the unmanifested logos. It's the manifested and the unmanifested world blending together. But anyway, Baum's wife was named Maud, and his mother-in-law, a strong woman and powerful influence in his life, was named Matilda. The initial of their names is also the first letter of mother. This sounds like some so-called Christian prophets I hear, but I digress. Mm-hmm. Well, thus M, the initial of Auntie M's name, suggests the archetypical feminine. By similar associations, Henry, which means ruler of the home, suggests the archetype masculine. So you got to interject manhood. Let me interject here. This means manhood is to be the ruler of the home. When women are the ruler of the home, Proverbs chapter 30, talking about the proverbial woman, she can run businesses and corporations, but also she's the head of the household. She helps the household run smoothly, and the man helps protect the household and the woman in the family and provide the means to be taken care of, so everyone works, the co-heirs equal in the gift of life. But the Theosophists will tell you that otherwise. So the yin and yang. So Auntie M is the divine feminine of power. See how it flips? And dominance. Henry is the ruler of the home, becomes the divine, he becomes feminized. In other words, manhood is altered to be more merciful, truth, and loving, while the feminine lays down the law of severity and sets the conditions for breaking them, and break your heart if you dare get out of line, men. Can I get an amen? And ladies, you have been hurt too by this stuff too, because we live in a fallen world, and our male and female relationships, husband-wife relationships, through our traumas in our life, have been screwed up for this stuff to take hold in people's lives, to try to do this stuff, to make it worse. So let me state this. According to this branch of Luciferianism, this is the work of dualism, bringing the dark lodge of feminism into a state of oneness with the white lodge of refined masculinity, androgyny. I see a lot of that happening, don't you? With Biden's administration, and also over in Europe and the UK right now, and Australia and New Zealand, you see a lot of that. So Dorothy, the gift of God, is the divine feminine, is brought from Kansas to Oz by a cyclone. I'm reading the article now. A cyclone is a great circular wind, a gyre. The Greek word from which cyclone comes means a circle or coil of a serpent. So let me interpret what the cyclone represents. The coil of a serpent. It symbolizes the Ouroboros, snake eating its tail symbol of chaos needed to change reality itself. So the tornado and Dorothy chasing after her animal instincts as Toto is hiding under the bed, and then the bed falls and kills the wicked witch of the east and all this stuff, and they wake up in Oz. You need chaos to make a perfect world, to put Oz and Kansas back together again. You got to burn it down, build it back better. That's all this book is about. The story's about. The cyclone is, and I'm reading the article, they say the cyclone is the cycle of necessity the round of birth and death which catches up and brings us into life, that is to Oz. Let me interject further here so you can understand what they're saying. This is the land of illusion, Maya. Okay? Oz and Kansas. Used to instruct to bring the mundane world of Kansas into unity, into a pure spirit state after long periods of reincarnations when humanity finally learns its lessons, become one with the divine. Androgyny, but I digress. In other words, you can create and you can build back a better Eden. You can create a paradise on earth when you blend spirit and material world together. It's the satanic idea of creating one new man. You create one new man through putting the divine feminine and switching roles, androgyny, and all that stuff. Let me get back to the article. Dorothy is caught. Excuse me. Dorothy is caught in the cyclone, the Oribus symbol here, because she is distracted by her little dog Toto. Toto expresses the archetype of the mischievous beast. That archetype represents the animal nature in us all. And when we are led astray by it, let me interject, by the dark lodge of materialism, when we follow it heedlessly, we're caught up by the passionate winds of the cycle of necessity, a chaos, and blown away to the world of samsara, which is the cycle of rebirth and reincarnation till we get it right. I'm just injecting the meaning of this here. So back to the article. Toto is a little beast in each of us, our special pet from whom we loathe to part, our materialism. And attachment to our mischievous animal nature brings us into birth. We tire of makeup. We tire of if I attain all these things, I am oppressing others who do not have. The have-nots have not because of me, and I must pay back and become group love, group conformity, and the needs of the many outweigh my single need. So says Captain Spock, quoting Karl Marx, or was it Lenin? I can't remember who said that. Oh, okay. If you know Star Trek, you know what I'm talking about. So back to the article. In Oz, Dorothy acquires 3 companions in order, and the order is important: the Scarecrow, the Tin Woodman, and the Cowardly Lion. Let me interject again to drive this home. This symbolizes manhood, all men. Frank Baum was a devout feminist whose courage to change was restored by the bottle of Theosophy, white magic. So let me get back to the article. These companions think they lack and thus have need to develop respectively intelligence, love, and courage, or the will to act. So let me interject again. The 4th ray of initiation. There are 4 companions. 4 companions. Dorothy, the Cowardly Lion, the Woodsman, and the Tinsman, the Tin Man, and the Scarecrow. 4. That represents the 4th ray of initiation, of initiating all humanity into compliance. The 4th ray of initiation involves initiating the will to achieve power. That's the first thing. Thus, men need to change maleness that God designed to them with new brains. So you have the first ray of initiation of 4 rays is the initiation that you have the will to achieve power. In order to achieve power, you become feminized and women become masculinized. And then you need to do this because you're doing it out of the love of the group, which is the 2nd ray of initiation. Scarecrow, the will to achieve power, the brains. Heart, the lion, manhood lacks heart, and you initiate it to be more loving and feminine-like. 3rd ray of initiation involves unity, bringing all into unity, to have the courage to have everybody in unity with the divine mind of Lucifer, through the 4th ray of initiation, which I'll explain in just a second. So they need the courage, the 3rd ray of initiation, to bring into unity, to change toxic masculinity, to merge compassion, love, and truth and mercy of existing womanhood, so that manhood becomes a new demasculinized man of the White Lodge of the Pillar, while women likewise flip their God-given roles to the masculine spin-off of providing security, law, and truth, warrior women, the protector, the wild-haired, orange, green-haired, bone in the nose, middle-aged, crazy, liberal potato. Thus, dualism is achieved the beginnings of a new androgyny, male, female, put together as one. This is mocking God, man and wife becoming one. They're making this literal. This is mocking God. This is a design to mock God, get people involved in mocking God. And God knows they're doing it because they do not know what they do. Jesus said, Father, forgive them, for they don't know what they do. And so the Lord goes, yep. And so Jesus exposed what we're really like, and we got a sin nature that needs to be developed. And that sin nature has been so developed that we can't see the forest for the trees, and it needs to be eradicated through the work of the cross and the blood of Christ. If you follow me in what I'm trying to say there. We took upon ourselves a sin nature. And the devil is using our sin nature to have God to punish humanity and destroy all humanity so he can look at God and say, ha ha, God, you can't keep your word, demand to exercise dominion as a family, procreate, and govern the earth according to the fruit of the Spirit. They failed. You got to destroy them. So therefore, you can't keep your word. Well, Jesus came into the world and through the work of the cross and forgave us of our sins and defeated the devil and made a public spectacle of them. Amen. That has been defeated. That plan is no longer valid. Doesn't mean the devil's not crazy enough to keep it going, because he knows that God will need to destroy a bunch of people because they're just going to follow this garbage. So let's get back to the article. I don't want to get off on a soapbox there. Dorothy's three companions are clearly thinking, feeling, and doing, called manas, the mental, the kama, the emotional, and the stuhula sariya, the physical body. So they have the three things. The mental, the will to achieve power, the emotional of love, and the physical body, making everybody united. It goes back to 3 rays of initiation. You understand the 7 rays lines up with this 7 root race theory. It explains all formulas, spell incantations, and how it all operates. I'm not going to go there right now, but that's just what it's talking about. Back to the article, and Dorothy, she required them in that order, from the highest to the lowest, just as we do when we come into incarnation. The 7 rays of initiation are to you come into incarnation into a divine androgynous being when everything is fused together. And the article goes on and states this. Let me read this. A statement published by Anne Bassett, but perhaps written by H.P. Blavatsky, describes the 3 aspects of her personality as they must be developed to respond to the perils of life. There is no danger that dauntless courage cannot conquer. There is no trial that spotless purity cannot pass through. There is no difficulty that strong intellect cannot surmount. Dauntless courage is what the lion must develop to change. Spotless purity is what the tin man must achieve as he's constantly being polished in the story to clean away the rust, his male toxicness that he's subject to. Strong intellect is what the scarecrow wants above all. The scarecrow and the tin man also debate which is more important, to have brains or heart in the story as well as the movie. And their debate is reminiscent of that section in H.P. Blavatsky's Voice of the Silence called The Tooth Paths. Kansas and Oz, okay, in which the intellectual doctrine of the eye is compared with the compassionate doctrine of the heart. Okay. The eye, the all-seeing eye of severity, justice, dominance is the feminine, and the pillar of mercy and truth and all that is the masculine. That's what it's talking about. The eye is compared to the compassion of the doctrine of the heart. The scarecrow and tin woodsman debate is left unresolved with the implication that both are good, but that Dorothy decided, it doesn't matter so much which is more important if only one gets back to Kansas nirvana. You need to build it, you got to burn it down and build it back better. Combine the two things. So let me add here, to get back, you have to change the mundane world into the fantasy world of the elite envisioned for us for our own good, because they want to corner the market and profiteer off of you. They want to control your thoughts, your emotions, your will, your intellect. You have AI being developed. We have chips that can be placed in our skin now. Digital currency right around the corner. And they're meeting in Davos talking crazy talk that I never thought I would ever hear. About the danger of AI becoming sentient and be able to write its own sentences, and it will dictate all laws. We don't need lawyers. We don't need laws, because the AI will do it for us. And then we don't need religion anymore. We don't need Christianity anymore. AI will be the new religion. Sounds like the perfect world of the Antichrist with its system, doesn't it? Noah Harari was discussing that at Davos. So you have to change this mundane world, Hermeticism, so the shards of humanity will realize that they are all divine, androgynous in nature, and they all get along and go and they gel together in harmony, peace, and safety. Hermeticism. In other words, humanity becomes divine by becoming the Holy Spirit. But I digress. Attaining the goal is all important. That's what the story, the article goes. Attaining the goal is all important. The means for doing so is not. So this article is quoting this, and it's stating, attaining the goal is all important. The means for doing so is not. Again, that phrase is nothing more than the Marxists yelling, it's the revolution of the revolution. We need to have more revolutions that fail until we all finally revolutionize into a new species being, so the history of materialism ends and we all gel back. Nirvana and Kansas and Oz meet together, and we live in harmony and unity with the elites under the control of the hierarchy, who will be our benefactors. Government, feed me, feed me, feed me. Give me all my needs, because the school system has dumbed me down. I don't know how to read. Can't think for anything, because men have to be made scarecrows. Even young girls need to be scarecrows in their mind, out no brains. And boy, you got to take their heart away from them, so they get hard. So they'll want this stuff, and then you got to give them the courage that they can do it. Yeah, all fits, doesn't it? So attaining the goal is all important. The means for doing so is not. In other words, we're just going to continually fail and fail and fail. The revolution is the revolution is the revolution. Put it like this: the revolution fails, the revolution fails, the revolution fails, the revolution fails, the revolution fails. Communism fails until we get it right. We go from east to west through the cycle of reincarnation until we get it right. This is all cultism stuff. Again, that's what that phrase means. So back to the article. Dorothy's quest in Oz is to find her way home, back to Kansas, back to nirvana, to build it back better. Again, let me add here, making this world into a nirvana means to turn this mundane world into a nirvana state of complete cessation of suffering by inducing mass suffering to enforce compliance through chaos. This is the Herbert Marcuse thing. I've read Herbert Marcuse stuff when I was in college, along with Saul Alinsky's and social work. I didn't know I was going to be primary. A lot of the majority of my social work professors, majority of them were communists. I didn't even want to admit to that. Herbert Marcuse was a whacked out commie. He wrote the article or a paper called Repressive Tolerance that expresses the same idea here. You demonize your opposition as bigots, enemies, haters, want to take away innocent people who broke into the country illegally and get rid of them. You're not with us. You're not the enlightened people. You are evil. We must get rid of the reactionary people. In other words, Herbert Marcuse stated that free speech is only good for those who have been oppressed. The oppressor doesn't deserve free speech. So when they talk about free speech, it's about taking your right for free speech to talk about reason and intelligence. They just want you to be a scarecrow without brains, without courage, so they can get what they want. The revolution is the revolution. Turn the world into this utopic paradise through revolution and demonizing. You talk about tolerance, but you have no tolerance for anybody who opposes your views. And so you seek to eradicate them. The right to free speech, right to reason, right to have a vote, like they're doing that in Virginia. The Democrats, they're going to do away with any paper ballots. And they're going to do away, they meet with 35 states, and they're going to say, we're going to go back to the popular vote wins. That way, the Democrats will never lose an election and be living in a communist hellhole. Like, you really will own nothing, and you won't be very happy in your 15-minute prison. I'll guarantee you, with your metaverse glasses on, taking your trips and vacations. Crazy stuff that people believe. That's Herbert Marcuse. If you use repression of tolerance, you have no mercy or sympathy for those who disagree with you. You have to cascade them as the evil. They're Trump evil, the epitome of all evil. You compare them with the most evilest people on the earth that everybody can relate to, and you call them names. Hope you find this interesting. That's Herbert Marcuse. Some of you know who Herbert Marcuse is. I should have wrote. I got to find that letter. It's in the archives. I got it probably in academia where I'm subscribed to. I think I'll find it and read it, parts of it to you. Pretty weird stuff. So let me further add, in Theosophy, nirvana involves achieving complete cessation of suffering by terminating the emotional nature of humanity's attachment to materialism and wanton desires, their animal need for materialism. That way you get rid of hatred and ignorance, which sound noble, but it's used as a scapegoat. Any who oppose group conformity, group control, and group love as the most hated human beings on the planet, worthy of eradication. You seen any of that lately on the streets of Minnesota? And by speaking by politicians, you really want these people in power? Pray that Trump is not going to be played as the opposition. Being played. He's one of the other. He's the side. They're playing both sides. I don't know if Trump knows he's being played, but to get rid of the criminal, illegal aliens is great. But what about the ones who broke federal law, who don't commit crimes? Do they stay? Do we allow this stuff to continue in California and the western coastal regions? Do we allow that in the northeast parts of America? Do we allow that in Virginia? If nothing is done and nobody goes to prison, then we know it's controlled opposition. The revolution is the revolution is the revolution until they get what they want. Complete servitude of humanity, slaves. Marx always talk about, you're a slave laborer. You're a slave labor. You're slave labor. You're a slave to your work. We want to liberate you from work because you are a social producer. So we want to tell you what to produce. We want to control your thoughts and minds and intent in this perfect nirvana world we want to make. This la la land. This is why you can't, through Herbert Marcuse's work, Impressive Tolerance, you will find out why you can't reason with the left today. They're beyond, you can't reason with them. They're all working to tear and burn the whole system to the ground because they're on a holy crusade for the most noble good of all society that Theosophy teaches, which is a lie. The Bible talks about the lie. You want to build back a better Eden. Yeah. This is achieved by accomplishing a transcendent state of existence in the heart of all humanity, where one is liberated from the cycle of birth and suffering, the samara, into a new, united, liberated mindset of universal peace of mind and heart, based on tranquility for all and in complete liberation from the bad aspects of materialism. In other words, you will achieve a liberal, rules-based world order, governed by esoteric-minded technocrats who prepare the way for the Antichrist to come. As Alice Bailey says, the silent watcher, who is almost sinlessly perfect, who the whole world waits to come to save them and do everything for them. Can't buy or sell unless you get the mark. Perfect world. Woo. A group love, group control, group love, group conformity enforced by group control by the Soviet or the Workers' Council or the Democrats. How you like that, the technocrats? Man, that sounds wonderful. Okay, let me get back to the article. But the article goes on and says, but it has, reaching nirvana, 3 phases. First, the journey from the east, where she lands in Oz, to the Emerald City in the center of the land. Second, from the center to the west, to slay the wicked witch, and return again to the center. And third, from the center to the south, to consult Galinda, the good witch of the south, from whom Dorothy learns the way home from. Okay? The route that Dorothy follows is the shape of a big T. The 3 points defining the inverted triangle, the triangle of matter. What do its 3 phases suggest? In the first phase, the article goes on, Dorothy follows a yellow brick road to find the wonderful wizard at the center of Oz. And I'm going to add here so you can understand it. I'll add the illusion of Maya, Oz, to realize this material life is an illusion and fable. So I had someone installing my high-speed internet who was definitely a theosophist come into my house, and he installed my stuff, and he, out of the blue, he started talking, do you know that reality is just an illusion? I says, I don't have time to talk that. I just want to make sure my internet works. He got back to business. I ain't going to put up with that. I'm not going to get in a fight with the guy. I want my internet, I don't want to, but, so this is what they believe. The world is an illusion. And we must ascend higher, ever higher levels of consciousness to bring the reality. You need brains, and you need a new heart, and you need courage. This is all mocking the process of God's sanctification too. But I'm not going to talk about that too much. Okay. So in the first phase, Dorothy follows a yellow brick road, the article says, to find the wonderful wizard in the center of Oz. The yellow brick road strongly suggests the path, the mystic way that leads to enlightenment. Its yellow is the yellow of gold, the metal that does not corrode or rust, the perfect metal, leading to the perfect world for your journey through life. How nice. Follow the yellow brick road. Follow the yellow brick road. Follow. Let me add this here. I just got to. Yellow gold in Theosophy symbolizes intellect, clarity that governs personal power and confidence. It represents the will to achieve power, to weld for the greater good, to make nirvana on earth, because golden yellow is viewed as the bridge between the physical and spiritual realms, representing the divine light of Lucifer, activating his creativity in your life and his spark of enlightenment to keep it so, to keep you on the road they all want you to travel on. Follow the yellow brick road. Follow the yellow brick road. The wizard is not so wonderful at all, is he? Let me find out who the real wizard is. But you didn't know the yellow gold represents all of that in Theosophy? It does. I got the link below. You can link to what colors in Theosophy mean. I just go to the horse's mouth and find out and report it to you. If you want it, it's all there. This illumination aids enlightening mankind with an inflow of the joy, optimism, and supplying constant renewal and warmth needed to in the struggle to one day attain nirvana of all mankind, ruled by the silent watcher to come. Isn't that wonderful? Now I got to get back to the article and wrap this up. Dorothy means womanhood infused with a divine masculinized feminism, the gift of God. Get it? Dorothy means gift of God. She's the figure, the archetype of womanhood infused with a divine masculinized feminine. And her companions follow the yellow brick road of enlightenment and Lucifer's light to find this, to how to destroy the system and build it back better. Road. They are faced with many perilous adventures, most of which were omitted from the movie. The Blavatsky statement mentioned in the earlier begins. This is what the yellow brick road represents. I'm reading from the article. There, from Blavatsky. There is a road steep and thorny, beset with pearls of every kind, but yet a road, and it leads to the very heart of the universe. The yellow brick road is that road, and the emerald city to which it leads is the heart of the universe of Oz. The yellow road represents the purity of the Luciferian light to achieve crashing the system down and building it back better. Here's the article. It says, at the end of the road are the Emerald City and the Wizard. Emerald, or the green, is the color of harmony, of balance. It is the midway color of spectrum, is the color of the fourth harmonizing ray. I'll tell you that in a minute. Emerald City is the color of harmony and balance. Go back to the pillar. Pillar of harmony and balance. Do you see it? Just look at that after what I said on screen. Think about it. Interesting, isn't it? So green is the central pillar of harmony and balance. And there is a pale rider. And on him follows his death. Okay? All that stuff in the book of Revelation. Interesting correlations here. Philosophies running amok around the world. Hell and death follow by promising harmony and balance and peace. And every communist country ever developed, like Cambodia, the Pol Pot, eliminated at least a third of its population. Always death and destruction and famine when these things come. Multiplied, millions of people die. You got to have the revolution as the revolution as the revolution until we burn the system down to build back a better Eden. Yeah, I get it. I understand the symbolism. Can't guarantee you that's if that analogy fits with the pale rider in the book of Revelation or not. I'm just using that as an example, not as a given or by any means. So just know that. Emerald is the color green of harmony. Balance is midway, the color of spectrum, the color of the fourth harmonizing way. Again, the fourth harmonizing ray refers to the fourth ray of initiating humanity by the fourth ray of initiation to create harmony through conflict. The Ouroboros symbol, the chaos of the tornado, conflict through black and white magic, through the Black Lodge and White Lodge, used for that purpose. Create tension amongst people, races, with the promises of liberation. Play both sides, better yet, play all sides. That's the devil's game. That is it. You create tension. Jesus said in the book of Matthew 24 about the last days, say nation will rise up against nation. It's the word for racist. Race will rise up against race on the worldwide scale. Haves versus have not, oppressors versus oppressed class. These are just the beginning of sorrows, the beginning of the birth pain. So yeah, we get it. There'll be deception, false prophets, false ways, false messiahs, false philosophies, promising that they are the Messiah, their way. The revolution is the revolution is the revolution. And keep doing it until we burn down the system, and then we get it right as we walk the yellow brick road. Let me get back to the article. The aim of following the path is to establish that harmony. The aim is also to find a teacher, the guru, who can show us the way home. The wizard represents, among other things, that teacher. So the wizard represents the teachers, enlightened leaders, okay? In the second phase of the quest, Dorothy is sent to the west to slay consciously the wicked witch who rules there, just as she unconsciously slew the wicked witch of the east when she landed in Oz. East and west are points of the compass with well-established symbolic meanings. East is the place of sunrise. It betokens the beginning of things, its birth. And the west is the place of sunset. It betokens the ending of things. It is death. Again, Kansas, the west, east, the colorful Oz. You must bring the two together, okay? In Irish myth, the article goes on to say, in other mythologies from all over the world, the land of the west is the country of the dead. The wicked witches of the east and west represent respectively the desire for birth and the fear of death that accompany our coming into and passing out of this life. So let me interject here. It means we live in this material world is between the east and the west. We were born into, and it's dreary, we grow tired of Kansas, and we have the way of imagination to create a better world to get us out of the doldrums. So you got to go off the bridge on the yellow brick road of Luciferian light. Yeah. It also represents allegorically to the Luciferian of Theosophy that mocks Jesus, who has always held the keys of hell and death as well. Baum is mocking this as well in the story. You don't get that in the movie, though, but the movie's kind of cute and entertaining. The flying monkeys are my favorite part of the movie. They represent something, but I'm not going to go and get into that. You're part of the Dark Lodge, but I'm not going to get into that. So the West, material world, East, the rebirth in Oz, and you got to slay East and West through constant states of reincarnation until you reach nirvana, until humanity gets it right. Gnosticism of the Battlestar Galactica series and that came out in 2000 up to 2005, 7, whatever, 7 years I think it was ran. And they create, you have to repeat the same old thing over and over again until you get it right. Okay. Both East and West, new beginnings, and the West, death must be put to death, is what it's saying. The West or Western world is a world of producing death, the materialism, and the East, with its Maya illusion, must devour the West. So that's their ideology here. So when this occurs, then the new nirvana world-like state can begin. Thus, chaos, the chaos monster, materialism, is tamed by the Maya illusion that both gel together to form a brave new world when the yin and yang become one brave new world through conflict and the use of science, the fifth ray through science, new science, through the sixth ray of collectivist ideas, and the seventh ray of occult magic merging to bring all this about. Let me get back to the article. If you don't know about the rays of initiation, go back, listen to some of my videos on the subject of the occult world series, and you'll find that. So Dorothy, got to recall, Dorothy symbolizes womanhood infused with a divine feminism quest for salvation, liberation, enlightenment, freedom from birth and death. Okay? And let me point out, this also mocks and perverts God's design and order for woman and manhood, especially womanhood, to be empathetic and have compassion, replacing these with the salvation of liberation and enlightenment and freedom from birth and death and responsibility of children, too. Thus, womanhood changed into the authority the men have. That's Eve's sin in the garden. Now, listen to what this article says next that coalesces with what I just pointed out. And during this, and the article goes, and during this mythic fairy tale, Dorothy achieves it. The story is, as it were, of her last incarnation. She is one of those who return no more. When she lands in Oz, the Maya, the illusion, the grandeur, she crushes the wicked witch of the East, thus overturning the desire for further birth. Moloch, abortion. That is the unconscious feat, because it's not the result of her action in this life, which is just the beginning, but rather it is the fruit of past accomplishments. That is her last life due to her karma from earlier unremembered lives. Let me interject. Unremembered lives of child rendering, toxic masculinity. You're in charge, baby. The crushing of the wicked witch of the East is therefore unconscious on Dorothy's part, rejecting your birth order that God designed you to be. So let me add further. This means crushing, destroying reality of how womankind is made, because it is taught as an illusion of life, because it's an illusion to think you're a life bearer, that you get that motherhood has any value, because that's, if you're in a motherhood, you're a servitude of being inferior to men, when in actuality, in reality, womanhood is not that at all. Men and women are in marriage co-heirs in this gift of life, not orgs pitted against each other, as the devil has put in the human sin nature to do. Why do you think the Bible tells men to love their wives as they, and not to be bitter toward their children? And why? It's trying to restore the order that in God's design of the family. When that gets in line, things become good, and you come into your own, and then it's an amazing thing, and you get life through life together. And as a Christian believer, you have heaven afterwards. Hallelujah. Okay. Matida Gage, Baum's radical feminist mother-in-law, stated this: women should unite upon the platform of opposition to the teaching of the aimed at of the ever most unscrupulous enemy of freedom, the church. Next, she stated that the careful student of history will discover that Christianity has been of very little value in advancing civilization, but has done a great deal toward retarding it. Not at all. Christianity allows grace and the ability to choose here's God. Jesus went about showing who the Father's like, doing good, healing, all that stuff. And also, God's a God of justice, but he'll allow you to make your own decisions, and you can reject him, you can reject the whole enchilada, or you can accept him and what he's done. It's your decision. He'll keep knocking on your door to try to make you make the right decision, but you have a right not to make the right decisions, and you can create hell on earth. It's on you, baby. And in that doing, God proves how that's the God I want to serve, because he puts up with all this stuff, and then he makes it all right in the end. If we just decide and say, I want to follow Christ because of what Jesus did on the cross, to be forgiven and have mercy, so I can find this new life and find what it means to be a human being again, that was robbed from me by this world that the devil polluted in, and being destroyed by theosophy and Satanism and occultism, masquerading as liberation. No, I don't want where it dictates, if you don't believe like they do, you're the enemy, and you have to have a repressive tolerance given to you. You have no rights. You are less than a human being and must be eradicated until you conform, or you are eradicated. I can't follow Luciferian beliefs. It's death. Rob kills and destroys by deceit and deception. So let me get back to the article. During the second phase of Dorothy's quest, however, she must consciously meet and slay the other wicked witch of the West, who represents the fear of death. This again is mocking the Bible, where it talks about Jesus liberating us from the fear of death, okay, in Corinthians there. Just mocking that. You need to know all this stuff is mocking God. Theosophy is a big mocker of God. The gaining of nirvana and the transcendent of personal self is a kind of death, a death of separateness. To achieve our quest, we must destroy the fear of death. We must slay the wicked witch of the West. And so Dorothy does. She liquidates the witch, dissolves the fear of disillusion. She washes away the last strains of separateness. This is the words of this three-pillar system that's seen in Masonry. The black pillar, the black law, the severity, justice, which is now the divine feminine, and the pillar of mercy, compassion, which is now a reshaped masculinity. They create and form unity, the central pillar, in of the virtuous way of purity, equilibrium by parallaic, by termination, bringing into a non-existing state, thus erasing God's design by blending a masculine and feminine together to create synthesis of unity, harmony, balance, a nirvana into nothingness, or according to the seven um, um, root race ages of evolutionary development of humanity, at the end of the seventh ray, everything is destroyed, and all human beings go back to a pre-existing spiritual sphere, gelling in the mind of Lucifer and Nirvana, the nexus. Don't think that some of these science fiction writers were totally off the rocker. They base some of this stuff off of philosophies and ideologies. And the old version, the old Star Trek sure did that. The Star Trek The Next Generation began that way, but then it got to woke later on, before woke even was known. Just my opinion. But still entertaining. What is that? The Starfleet Academy is totally idiotic. It's not even worth watching. But anyway, never seen it. Let me read the article. The gaining of this nirvana, the fear of death, the fear of nothingness, fear of losing it all, of your of materialism, and the transcendence of the personal self, of love and harmony and beauty, is a kind of death, the death of separateness. To achieve the quest, we must destroy the fear of death, materialism, kind of paraphrasing this paragraph of the article. We got to slay the wicked witch of the West, materialism, and so Dorothy does. She liquidates the witch and she dissolves the fear of disillusion, fear of being dissolved yourself, because that's what they're gunning for. In other words, the devil's preparing you for the lake of fire, to join him in the lake of fire, and you thinking it's a nirvana paradise. Okay, so the reality of it. And she washes away the last stains of separateness. The pale rider, hell and death follows. Just very interesting. So let me interject further here. This is the state of equilibrium, the third pillar of disillusion, dissolving of the old order to attain nirvana on earth. The article goes on to say, or as Gnosticism teaches, you slay the demiurge and his son and the spirit who made the material world when you do this. So Dorothy must, and the article goes on to say how Dorothy must go to the uttermost west, encounter the wicked witch of death, and overcome her with water, the symbol of life. So let me add this. Here is mocking the idea of water that's related to the Holy Spirit. Thus, through their ideas is to destroy the power of the Holy Spirit, melt this away with a new age water of the spirit of Antichrist, to create a more diverse, equitable, inclusive world of love and fairness. And everybody goes, So also, that's what it's saying. And there's more to it, that the water also means it washes away your fear of death, and materialism vanishes, and you enter in this utopic world. Yeah. United in the third ray of initiation. Everybody comes a unified whole of equilibrium, peace, and balance, promised by Lucifer when he will be tossed in the lake of fire. It's the reality of the matter. It's just a game to fool you. The article goes on, we can overcome death and illusion only in the world of death and illusion. Oz and Kansas. We must pass through the valley of the shadow of death to come to the land of eternal light. Again, mocking the Bible's Psalm 23. And eternal light means into the light of Lucifer. To come to the land of eternal light is the light of Lucifer, which the glowing, glittering, golden road points to. He provides the illumination to walk the path. This is the light of Lucifer, whom Jesus warns is a thief who comes to do what? To kill, rob, and destroy through deception, intrigue. In 2026, in January here, could be still be going on, but I think it's about ended. In Davos, Elon Musk proclaimed that it might be possible to never die by use of advanced technologies to implant ourselves into another organism of some type. And I just want to let you know. So he goes on. The article says, we can overcome death and illusion only in the world of death and illusion. We must pass through the valley of the shadow of death to come to the land of eternal light. And as Elon Musk just recently announced at Davos, they're working on implantables to maybe make you, everything you know, part of a AI system so you can live forever in this system, or maybe plug yourself into a robot. If it breaks down, just make a new body or something. Maybe like the Tin Man, if your body falls apart, you just become a bionic person. I don't know what he means. I'm not sure if he does either. So you never die. Let me get back to the article. What shall we make, however, of Dorothy's, the divine feminine's, return to the Emerald City after she has conquered her fear of death, when she discovers that the wizard and teacher and guru is a humbug, a fake? This, perhaps the most theosophical of all details, is the fairy story. The wizard is a humbug because all teachers we find outside ourselves, our own teachers, are humbugs. Don't listen to your pastor. Don't listen to the guy on the radio who's talking about Jesus. They're humbugs. Stop here. Let me just kind of interject a little more. Here in this world is the definition, in these words, is a definition of a cult. It says the wizards is a humbug because all teachers we find outside ourselves, our cult, are humbugs. Only the cult has the truth. So Theosophy is a Luciferic cult. Only they have the only truth. The difference between true biblical Christianity and cults is that cults only allow their way. There's no room for reactionary disagreement, and you can't easily just walk away and do your own thing. They won't let you. They say they do, but when they talk about getting rid of reactionary people who don't agree with them, well, belays the point that they're not really sincere about what they believe. Biblical Christianity, on the other hand, allow you your choice to choose or reject or go your merry way freely. Cults do not allow this. You must be a member for life. So let me get back to the article. This is perhaps the most theosophical of all details of the fairy story. The wizard is a humbug because all teachers we find outside ourselves are humbugs. One of the cardinal messages of Theosophy is that we can rely on no one to save us but ourselves. As the voice of silence says, prepare thyself, for thou wilt have to travel alone. Aleister Crowley says, do as thou will is the whole of the law. So let me interject further. That poses a logical contradiction whose only answer is hubristic in nature, because it's only you, baby, can decide, but you need the cult leaders of Theosophy and Satanism and the whatnots to help guide you into the right direction. But if all teachers are humbugs, wow, your Theosophy and teachers all must be humbugs too. The article goes on, the teacher can but point the way. Each student must walk the way alone. Reliance on a teacher or a guru must inevitably end in disappointment. All the teachers are humbugs, save one, the teacher within, your spirit guide. Yeah, right. Again, I'll point out that you being a teacher by their own form of reasoning makes you a humbug following your own path, because you're doomed to fail, because you fail to think that by doing so, you'll be led to create a paradise of nothingness on earth, a nexus, all full, because your own teachers and your own spirit guide teaching you is a humbug because it's a cult. You're inside of a brainwashed cult who's brainwashing you, and that is a humbug. So theosophy and occult are full of humbugs, no less that, and their path can't work because the devil's plan is to kill by stealth, rob by intrigue, destroy by deception. Listen to what the article says. In a sense, the picture of the wizard ensconced in his throne room in the Emerald City when he tries desperately to disguise his humbuggery is a satire on all authority and particularly on religious authority. What about Theosophy's religion? You said all means all, including your own, but I digress. When visitors, the article goes on, when visitors come to the Emerald City, they are required to put on a pair of green glasses so everything appears green to them. The green glasses are like dogmas that religious wizards insist their followers to adopt so their ecclesiastical cities will look green and vital. So let me interject here. I gotta wait a minute. What about the Theosophists, the occultists, the Satanists everywhere? They're all humbug religious leaders to be all, including your own. So one becomes at their own personal. So if you become your own personal leader following your own path, you have become a humbug, a fake. Isn't that nice? No wonder the lake of fire awaits. Emerald or green is a color of harmony, as the article says, of balance. It is the midway color spectrum, is the color of the fourth harmonizing ray, the order out of chaos. It's the aim of following the path is to establish that harmony through chaos. Okay, that is saying harmony is achieved by creating conflict that plays all sides against each other to kill, rob, and destroy again and again until you reach paradise. How nice! Isn't that wonderful? Here's the article. It says the joke, yeah, really. The joke is that the Emerald City is really made of emeralds. It really is green quite naturally. Religion really is what it says it is, a place of treasure and marbles. But the humbug wizards who have gotten themselves put in charge of it, the priests and ministers have no faith in the natural value of their city, so they require the unnecessary artificial spectacles. At least I ain't wearing rose-colored glasses. Hallelujah, like you guys are. And the article goes on and says they think that the emeralds need the assistance of green glasses. In other sense, the guru is a humbug only because we make one of him. We insist that he tell us what to do. And you're seeking the hierarchy and spiritual beings to tell you what to do. How do you know they're not humbugs? Because all teachers are humbugs, but I digress. Okay. The article continues. We want him to save us when we ask the teacher to do for us that which we can only do for ourselves. We have made a humbug out of him. Finally, the teacher wizard must sail off in his balloon powered by the hot air he and we have forced into it. And then we are left by ourselves to find our own way. Let me interject. H.P. Blavatsky, Anna Bassett, Alice Bailey, and all the enlightened masters, and even the hierarchy itself, slated to return around the year 2025, according to Bailey's writings in Externalization of the Hierarchy, who teach your religion that you must all be humbugs too. Well, I'm glad we got that straightened out. I really am so happy to know that your own cultic ideas and your own teachers and your own path making you a humbug too. It reveals what the devil wants to do to you. Some folks need to include themselves in the mix with those they are mocking, the Judaic, Christian, Western values and traditions as the enemy. Therefore, they themselves must also be the enemy as well. Matida Gage, Baum's radical feminist mother-in-law, told them and teaches that women should unite in opposition to the teaching of the church. Article goes on. So Dorothy sets out on the third phase of her quest to be united, the third phase of initiation. This time she travels to the land of the south to seek the counsel of Glinda, the good witch of the south. Okay. To travel south is to travel deep within ourselves. That's the symbol there. The Mississippi River, that father of waters, like most rivers in the United States, flows southward. Boy, this sounds like some of these TV prophets and some of these weird people I hear on TV. But anyway, the Mississippi River, that father of waters, like most rivers in the United States, flows southward. To travel south is to travel in the natural direction towards the ocean of unity. Just click your heels 3 times. So Glinda represents the intuition within each of us, the glint of the light of truth, the only source of guidance. So let me use your own logic. That has to be a humbug too. Glinda is a teacher. Oh, she's part of the cult, so she's not a humbug. But how do you know she's not a humbug? Whatever. Glad we got that straightened out. Well, Glinda, the good witch of the south, whatever, matches both the old Greek goddesses of Athena and Veritas, the Roman goddess. They're the same entity. There's a Mesopotamian one. Most people know the Greek with Athena. They got in Nashville. They have the Temple of Athena there, with Athena decked out in gold, and I took pictures of it. I showed some of it on here already, but they are the same. Athena in Veritas is the personification of naked truth that leads one's intuition to find unity with the divine by use of the divine forces that reveals and unfolds. These are in charge of revealing what is hidden and unfold knowledge into you. Secret divine wisdom is imparted to you to walk this path. And Veritas is dedicated as and explained as hiding at the bottom of a deep, very deep holy well, aka the South. I hope you can see some of the symbolism with the Greek gods in this story that they mix and everything. Athena and Veritas. So Glinda represents Athena, aka Veritas, naked truth, that brings everybody into unity and gives you secret knowledge. Lives in the south at the bottom of a well, the abyss. Ershkigal, a Mesopotamian lore, maybe. So Glinda represents this type of new spirituality, to unite all into unity of naked truth through divine force that unfolds secret divine wisdom that, as Theosophy states, is the end goal for human beings to become divine themselves. They become gods. So wouldn't the channel writings of the occult world, the spirit guide channelers, and the human agents be humbugging people to believe a lie, ye are gods? I digress. Let's get back to the article and wrap it up. I'm almost done, folks. Bear with me. I sometimes have too much fun. What Gilda tells Dorothy, the article says, the divine feminine, is that she always had the power to go back to Kansas. Dorothy needs no guru, for she is her own guide, but Glinda had to tell her that. Okay, no, I'm missing something there. Dorothy only need to rely upon herself, upon her own feet, clad in the silver shoes that are in contact with the earth of the Oz, Maya, illusion, and imagination, which is also the earth of Kansas. For Oz, the illusion is Kansas, and Samsara, reincarnation, is the nirvana. You finally evolve into a pure spirit state. But in Theosophy, let me tell you something. Silver is symbolized in Theosophy as the astral plane. It involves astral projection to reach Vestius, to act as one of the guides of Hera through Athena, to give you secret knowledge and insight. That's why you see a lot of her followers surround themselves with ostrich feathers, with the all-seeing eye of Hera and Athena, and Nike and all that stuff. I won't get into all that right now. It symbolizes the astral plane, astral projection for new truths that come from the lunar principle, aka the divine feminine energy of intuition, deep within the subconscious mind. And then to hear these and mirror this higher spiritual truth to humanity, to guide them ever onward, give them messages from above to below. Astral plane into the heavenlies, or the city under the sea that looks like Disneyland. And I'm sorry. Disneyland and Willy Wonka in the chocolate factory. And I give you all this secret knowledge. Oh my. Well, people believe because they don't know. I'm sorry, I'm having fun, folks. Yeah, the divine feminine, to hear this higher spiritual truth from humbugs. So because of this, always, what this means, you're always dying and reincarnating. And one day, as Karl Marx would postulate, when you reach the end of history, when we return to a species being state, in a nowhere utopia where when reincarnation stops, this endless dying and birth, the revolution for the revolution that always fails, rebirth sounds more like the lake of fire than paradise. The devil lies. He's cunning. He sells you hell by making it look like paradise. Well, the article goes on. Let me finish it. If there is a moral to the wonderful Wizard of Oz, this is it. We must rely on ourselves, for we alone have the power to save ourselves. Oh my gosh. I won't go there. I'll keep that to myself. That moral is made throughout the book, and also in regard to Dorothy's three companions. The Scarecrow thinks he needs brains, but whenever the four companions find themselves at an impasse, the Scarecrow comes up with a clever plan to help them. The divine feminine, Hera, helping them. The feminization of man. The Tin Woodsman, or the Tin Man, thinks he needs a heart, but he is one who has constantly worried that he may step upon a bug and harm it, and who is ever in danger of rusting from his own tears because he feels such compassion for others that he freely weeps. An emasculated man with heart. I got that image out of my head. I'm sorry, I got an image in my head of these guys walking into Sephora. My wife would have me go into Sephora, and she go shop for hours. Like, I'm driving me crazy. I have to sit somewhere and I watch these guys are painting themselves like women. But never mind. Wearing the most masculine clothes with this painted faces. I mean, maybe they're going to a clown show. I don't know, but I gotta stop. I can't get that image out of my head, Lord. Because they have heart. Man, they talk funny too. But anyway, the cowardly lion thinks he needs courage. Sorry. But the article goes on. He's the one who acts bravely to save the company wherever they're threatened by danger. Dorothy's companions, like Dorothy herself, have within themselves the qualities they are seeking. With the help of Bestia or Erskigal, the Mesopotamian, or Athena, you can find yourself within. And the man becomes feminized and the woman becomes masculinized, and the two duality finally ends, and the two are brought back together in an androgynous state of reaching godhood. Wow. So goes the cult. And their humbugs teach that. Okay. The book that goes on, we each have everything we need. The article goes on. We lack only intuition from Galinda, the new spirituality, the good to tell us so. Galinda, the good, the new spirituality to tell us so. It's all about you. You're the best. You're the greatest. God saved you because you're so wonderful. Not that you're a sinner. There is no sin. There's no heaven. There's no hell. Only blue sky above. We can make a beautiful, perfect world. So say the gurus. They're humbugs. But so each we have everything we need. We only lack intuition of Glinda the good to tell us so. This reminds me of what occultist Alice Bailey in Externalization of the Hierarchy stated on page 510, 514 of the hardback edition. The church, as a teaching factor, should take great basic doctrines and shattering the old forms which they are expressed and held, show their true inner spiritual significance. Again, in Initiation, Human and Solar Unabridged edition, Alice Bailey goes on, theologies will disappear into the knowledge of God. No, Glinda, okay? And the doctrines and dogmas will no longer be regarded as necessary because, there's all humbug. So, as necessary, for faith will be based on experience and authority will give place to personal appreciation of reality. The power of the church over the group will be supplanted by the power of the awakened soul in men. The biggest picture I can tell you is this. If any teacher, according to Baum and Theosophy, is a humbug, then what makes those who follow the path that Alice Bailey and Theosophists and Blavatskyite and the occult world and Satanists follow? Think about it. That, I'm at the end here. I went way too long, but 2.5 hours. But if you don't mind, you can watch this. You can come back to it, but hope you find it interesting. I was going to break it in 2 parts. Maybe I should, but maybe I will. Maybe I'll download it, edit it, cut it in 2 parts. But then if I cut it in 2 parts, people will miss the second part or miss the first part, and they won't understand what I'm trying to say. With that, I hope you enjoyed everything. So if you'd like to contact me, all my information's there, contact information. If you'd like to support me, the PayPal information is there. And I thank everybody who has. I appreciate it so much. It keeps me going, keeps me online here. It helps out a lot. I have my book, A Land Unknown, Hell's Dominion, and Heaven Beckons too. It's all there. Don't forget to like and subscribe and push the button and all that stuff. Ring the bell. With that, I'm not going to really go too much in the live chat. Just check in. This is a green screen. Wow, it looks nice outside. I see. Actually, it is really about below zero, and it's icy. We got about 4 inches of snow. Other places got it worse because we were at the other end of the storm. And it's all, the sun's been shining and melting things off today, but it's been pretty bitter cold. This is a green screen. Okay, I won't tell you about the colors. Thanks, Jason. That's funny. Okay, let me go back up to the top here. See if there's any questions real quick. I saw those. Wow. Okay, come on. Oh. No, I don't have a swimming pool. This is a... Everybody thinks I have a swimming pool. This is a... I'm going to bring this up here. Okay, let me bring this up. This is a green screen. I can be in a tunnel. I can be in the dark surrounded by trees. I can look a little bit like Christmas. I can be here. I can be there. I can be here. I can be there. I can be here. I can be all washed up. I can teach on the book of Revelation. Okay. Or talk on hell. This is all green screen stuff, folks. Okay. That's what that is. Okay, folks, that's what all that is. Okay. Yeah, the flying monkeys. I didn't get into the flying monkeys, but or the symbolism would be too much for that. But anyway, thank you. I did like the movie The Wizard of Oz as a kid. It was one of my favorite movies. And if you just look at it as a fairy tale and not in a theosophic tradition, but since you realize what it's doing, the book is worse because it's actually, the book is kind of boring in modern terms. But anyway, when you read it, back then it wasn't, but it is today. Most people wouldn't read it. They'd rather watch the movie. Okay. And then the green middle pillar related, if you take God's rainbow colors into the menorah, the green is the middle main candlestick holder part. The green is also related to Shavuot feast in the throne room. As I stated before, the devil likes to mock God and the use of the rainbow and colors. They reinterpret those to mean something entirely different than what God intended them to mean. And, I forgot to bring that out. So I just want to bring that out now. Okay, departure heaven's beginning. So everybody say, okay, you guys can go do that. I'm going to head out of here myself. Catch you all later. I'll go down looking for any questions. Okay. Heavenly Father, we lift up Jason, who needs to make it through the next 2 days. He has no food left in the house, and I'm flat broke until my direct deposit hits Wednesday night. Work's been giving me less than 10 hours a week lately. So Heavenly Father, increase his work, give him a good tip. Lord, we ask you to intervene on his behalf in Jesus' name. Anything stopping or hindering it, we command it to break off of him now in the name of Jesus. Lord, supply his needs according to your riches and glory. In Jesus' name, amen. Okay. Yeah, you can always do the 2 times speed. I can talk like a munchkin, Okay. Okay, I'm going to get out of here, folks. Okay. Okay, get down to the bottom here. Okay, I don't see any questions. If I missed a question, that's okay. I'm going to go. Oh, here's a question. Why is organized Satanism legal in America? They are sadistic, and we are always committing crime. If you understand criminality and how the devil works, they like to use laws, existing laws, to pit their own desires on. So they take the constitutions of religious freedom and they slap it in your face. That's how it's done. You don't live up to your true standards of freedom of religion if you deny this or deny this organization or this religion that wants to enslave womanhood and enact real strict laws, and women wear tent coverings over their body, and you're not allowing freedom of religion. And so it's a fine line. When you see it, that's how the devil works. Pits existing laws and things against themselves, pits God's character traits against themselves, try to trip them up. He always fails and always will fail until he's finally done away with in lake of fire. So there we go. Can you talk about the monkeys? Probably later. I'm too tired to talk about the flying monkeys. But I will try to get to that later. I'm kind of tired. So anyway, you guys be blessed. I'm going to head out of here. I am tired, and so I am going to head out and probably put this up so I can sign off without any problems. So I'm going to go ahead and sign out. Sorry about the 2.5 hours, but I'm keeping it. Y'all just watch it as you go and come back to it wherever you left off. With that, you guys be blessed in Jesus' name and catch you next time.